Hello everybody, what's up with another math video. Today I'm gonna explain to you how to multiply and divide rational algebraic expressions. So basically, rational algebraic expressions are two polynomials that is divided. So what are polynomials? So basically terms that are grouped together by a plus or minus sign. So like a plus 1 and then 2 plus b. That could be a rational algebraic expression. So now we know what it is. Now let's learn how to multiply and divide them. So for example, but first actually, I'm gonna teach you two types of rational algebraic expressions that you can multiply and divide. So it's basically like fractions, because rational means dividing or fraction. So there's two types. One type is a monomial and the other type is a binomials, which you have to factor. But first, let's learn the easier ones. So a over 5, a to the 5th power over 10 times 5 over a cubed. Okay, so like multiplying normal fractions, you multiply the numerator by the other numerator, and you multiply the denominator by the other denominator. So basic skills of multiplying terms. So a to the 5th times 5, which is 5a 5, and then 10 times a cubed, 10a cubed, and then you have to simplify it to the final, like the simplest form. How do you do that? By looking for their GCF. What's the GCF of 5? We have to learn what is the GCF of the numerical coefficients first. So what's the GCF of 5 and 10? Which is 5. We know that by, there's other ways to do it, but this is the simplest way I find it to find the factors of each number. So 5. The factors of 5 is 1 and 5 because the prime number. And then 10 is 1, 2, 5, and then 10. So you find the biggest number that they have the same. So the GCF is 5. Now you find the GCF of these, if there are any. So if they're the same sign, if they're same variable, you find the bigger one, which is a5. So you subtract the exponent. So 5 minus 3 equals 2. The bigger one is here on top. So that means it's either you divide both of them, a5 by a3 and a3 divided by a3. So this would be a squared, because if you divide variables with exponents, you subtract their exponents. So it's only 2. Here it's 3 and 3, which is just 1. It would be 0, a0, which is equal to 1. So now our final answer in this thing is, you divide 5 by 5 and you divide 5 by 10. you divide 10 by 5. So our final answer would be a squared over 2. Simple as that. And there's also another method where you cancel. There you go. Now you can cancel 10 and 5. Since we know their GCF, if they have one, which they do, so their GCF is 5. If the GCF is the number, it becomes 1. So what's 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And then now we can cancel variables. If you know how to do it, this would be simple. But just in case you don't, I will teach you how. They're the same, right? They have the same variable. So that means you just have to subtract the exponent. So 5 minus 3, this would be 2. And then 3 minus 3, it would be 0. So if this is cancelled out, and if it's equal to 1, you just write the final thing. So this is a squared over 2, the exact same answer as we did here. Okay, now let's do the harder version. There's 3 levels to this. Okay, now we got our things to divide. So, in my opinion, cancellation is easier. So, I will do that. So, first, here in canceling, if you find that there's the same variable here, C, and these two also have a GCF, you have the GCF, you can also cancel them at the same time. So since B2 is smaller than B4, this one would have the remaining B, and this would have no B anymore. So you can just cancel this out, and then you cancel this out, that would become B squared. And then the GCF of 30 and 15 is 15. What I said, if you divide something by itself, it would just become 1, which is, yes, there. You don't need to write 1 if there's a variable, because if there's a variable there, it already means that there's a 1. And then you divide 30 by 15, which is 2. In 6c and 4c squared, we just do the same thing as I did. So this has the less amount, because if there's nothing here, it just means there's a 1 exponent. So now you cancel out c1 and c2. What's 2 minus 1, which is 1. C. This just means a normal C. And then now the GCF of 6 and 4 is 2. So what's 4 divided by 2? 2. What's 6 divided by 2? It's 3. Now you multiply the remaining. What's 2 times 2? What's 2 times 2c? There's still a c here, which is 4c. What's 3 times b2? That's 3b squared. Simple as that. Now let's do the hardest parts. Now, we cannot cancel if there's a plus or minus sign, which means we have to factor it first. Now, how do you factor these types of equations? Because they're not a special product or that's what we think for now. So first, before anything, I need you to understand if this was 4f, you cannot cancel this, okay? Just a quick reminder. You cannot cancel this because it would mean an entirely different thing and it won't be the right answer. Okay, now to factor this, you find the GCF of these two terms. What's the GCF of 3 and 12? Or do they have a similar variable? Since they don't, we don't include the variable in the GCF. So it's just 3. So you divide both of them by 3, which would be, we're gonna write our new equation first. Okay, so that would be 3D first, okay? And then now, f minus 4. Don't forget the GCF, which is 3. Okay, now for 4f and 16 minus 16. So 12d squared. And then here, the GCF, or there's no common variable in both of them, so there's no variable in the GCF. So what's the GCF of 4 and 16? It's 4. Now divide both of them by 4. The answer would be f minus 4. Now you add the GCF, which is 4. Now you can finally cancel. So you can't cancel this and this, okay? That won't be counted. But since these two are factors, okay, so as I told you earlier, you cannot cancel terms unless if they have the same value, like the entire equation. So these are factors this time, but these two are terms in a polynomial. So now we can cancel these two. Now what would be left is 4 and 3. You can't cancel them because they don't have a GCF. Now you can cancel 12d and 3d. 12d squared and 3d. As we learned from the other equations, that you have to learn if there's the same. Yes, they do have the same, so cancel this and this because this one has this one has more d's. Okay, okay, just don't think of it like that. Okay, and then now what would be left is just d here. Then you cancel 3 and 12. Their GCF would be 3, so you divide 3 by 3, which is just 1, which is just 0. Not 0, but like it won't be needed to written down because if you multiply 1 by 4, it would just be 4. Okay, and then what's left here is 12 divided by 3, which would be 4d. Okay, now we multiply what's left. There's nothing to multiply here, so you just write 4 and then 3 times 4d. That would be 12d. Now, this still isn't the final one, since these two still have a GCF, which means we can cancel this too. So now what would be left is 3, and this would be 1. Now, the actual final answer is 1 over 3d. Yay, we won. Now we're done with multiplication. Now let's go to division. It's basically the exact same thing, but there's an extra step. Okay, you don't do what we did immediately, So first, there's a thing. Here's how I interpret it. It's KCF, not KFC, but KCF. Keep, change, flip. I told you there was only one step, but this could also be seen as one step, but it would be easier for you if keep, change, flip. Okay, so what this means is you keep the first one, you change the sign, and then you flip this. Okay, now it would be 7 6x. You change this, that would become times, and then you flip. Okay, now let's do what we did last time. Okay, we cancel these two because they have the same value, and then you cancel the x because they're the same, and then you cancel 6 and 12. The remaining would be 2. This would just be 1. So the final answer would become 2 over 1 or 2. Simple. Okay, now let's go to the next one. That would be... Okay, now you might be confused that why is the second term not a fraction? As I interpret this, 4a squared is 4a squared over 1. Because if you divide something by 1, it's the same value. Now, remember KCF. Keep, you change, you flip. Simple like that. Okay, now we do what we did. So A5, and you remove this one, this would become A3. You can't cancel these two, and you can't cancel these two. Remember, another thing, you cannot cancel numeric this if they're the same. Like, you can't you can't cancel 3 and 1, and you can't cancel 4 and 4 and 4. You could also divide this way, cancel this way, this and this, this and this, or this and this. You cannot, in any circumstances, cancel out this, this, and this, and this. You cannot cancel them out. Each other, You can't cancel each other. Okay, now we left here is a cubed and 4. And there's also 4 and a 1. Now, we just multiply. So, it would be A3 because 1. Then now, 4 and 4A. No. 4 and 4, 16. Final answer. This. Easy as that. Okay, now let's do the factoring. Okay, now let's go to the next problem or equation. This one. This would be the most difficult part. Remember, you still have to do KCF first. I know it's just repeating, but that's how it works. So we just write 16. Yep. Okay, that's our equation. Now KCF 16 minus x squared over x2 plus 2x. Then C, change, that would be multiplication sign. And then x minus, no. That would be x squared minus 4. And then x minus 4. Yeah, you flipped it. Okay, now we factor. Look for the things we can factor. Okay, we cannot factor this. We can factor this. We can factor this. And we can factor this. Okay, now we factor them. How do you factor these types of binomials? or two terms. That is a polynomial. Okay, now let's factor this one first. I'll teach you how. So first, are they both squares? Yes, they are. 16 is a square and x squared is a square. But 2x squared is not a square. X squared might be a square, but 2 isn't. So you have to remember that. Okay, so what's this? You have to find the square root of each of them. So the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of x squared is x. And then this is a difference of two squares, because two squares and the difference being the subtraction sign. Okay, since you found out the square root, cut that out, you can now do the thing. Okay, you add a plus sign first, so it would be easier for the teacher to check, and then a minus sign. So you just replicate it on the other side. Okay, now we factored this one, the exact same thing, except it's still a square, but it's not the same square. So we found out the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, now you add a plus sign, then you do the same thing but with a minus sign here. Okay, now we cancel out this. Like the other one, they have a GCF of x because they both have x. So you write the GCF x, and then you divide both of them by x, by the GCF, which is what's x squared divided by x? You're correct, it's x plus 2. You just remove the x because if you divide something, it just becomes 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, x minus 4. You just copy it because there's nothing to factor about. Okay, now the easy part, you just cancel it out. Okay, cancel this one. Okay, first of all, if you see something like this, and you cannot just cancel these two. Okay, you cannot. So what we're gonna do is this trick that my teacher taught me. You can just add a minus sign, and then you flip their roles. I don't know how that works, but I guess it does. Okay. Now you can just cancel these two out, and then you can cancel these two out. And then this is what you have left. Okay, since you're left with them, I don't know why that keeps happening. Okay, now you're left with these two. Why does it keep on glitching? I don't get it. Okay, now since we're left with these two, now you just put them on the same table or bar. Okay, x minus 2. Okay, then x. Oh my days. Okay, since of this thing, you have to add a minus sign over there. Okay, now we multiply these two. Let's do the FOIL method. This is very common in math when you reach grade 7 or grade 8, or any time when you're gonna multiply binomials. So FOIL, first terms 4x, last terms, outer terms, what's happening to my brain? Okay, minus 8, inner terms, x squared, and then this would be negative 2x. Since there's common literal coefficients, you subtract them or add them together, that would become 2x. Okay. Oh my days. you arrange them by the largest exponent. So x squared, negative 2x, and 8. No, positive 2x, and then negative 8. Wow. I'm so confused. Anyways, 8. And then over x, since there's still a minus sign. Because of that minus sign, you multiply it by the thing. So you just change, you flip these two, it would become the final answer, x squared. To be honest, I don't get how this works. Don't blame me. I'm gonna learn about it later on, because you learn every day. Now this is your final answer. So yeah, that's basically how to divide and multiply RAEs, and I hope you learned something. I definitely learned something, that you learn every day and you do mistakes. Thank you for watching the video and actually wanting to learn, or you're just interested in my content, my videos. And if you like this video, I would appreciate it, because more people will learn. And then you need a reminder that Jesus Christ loves you no matter what. And I love you. Not as a weird way, but as a brother, as a family. Even if you killed someone, you mass murdered someone, or you did something wrong, I love you, Jesus Christ loves you. And any hate that's portrayed to you, do not reflect it to anybody else. And everyone, I love you, Jesus loves you. And I will end it in a nice note. And anyone who says something mean to you, don't think of it that way, because the only opinion that you should care about is Jesus Christ. It's his opinion. Now, goodbye.